So when I was in California, I did work exchange for about 10 days, a little bit southeast of Sacramento, and I was still living out of the van, so I slept in there at night. But I did it through this website called WOOF USA. It stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, I believe. And I didn't really do much farming work just because of the time of year and the location. There wasn't much to do. It was kind of the end of the season. But I was able to do a lot of fun projects for my host's herbal business. I did a bunch of different things, but on one of the days I decided to kind of film what I was doing, and unfortunately I kind of picked the day that's probably the most boring to show just because I didn't really do anything that's interesting to watch on camera, but hopefully you enjoy. Also, just note that I tried to respect the privacy of the people who hosted me and like not show everything about them and kind of focus it more on me. So yeah. So I probably woke up around 7 o'clock and didn't really get out of bed until 7:30 because it's a bit chilly, so it's kind of nice to just lay in bed sometimes. Something that they made me realize is really important is stretching. Like in the morning, at night, just whenever. It's something that I don't feel like people really do enough. I certainly don't do it enough. But I'm really glad they helped me kind of see the importance in that. And so usually most days I would stretch once or twice, usually morning and night. One of my favorite kind of rituals that I had that I did every single morning I was there was I would get up and walk down from where my van was parked kind of to their home yard area and pet their dog Kaya. She was outside. And then I would walk on this little trail they have out in their backyard that goes to an outdoor potty type thing. And so I'd always go to the bathroom there in the morning, and then you just take this kind of ashy stuff and cover it all up with that and then put the cover back on, and I actually found it to be really fun. And so then I also got some water to put in my van because I had a bunch of dishes that I had avoided doing for a long time, and I decided today was finally the day that I should do them. And then another thing I did most mornings, which I really enjoyed, was just going for a simple short walk, usually like half an hour. One of my favorite things about the area that they lived was that it's just kind of out in literally the middle of nowhere, and so you're not distracted by constant background noise. It's just one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. usually get my day started around 9 or 10 o'clock, sometimes as late as noon. It just kind of depended. Usually for woofing, you work about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, depending on the farm. Good morning.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, what have you been up to?
Just went for a walk and then did some coloring in a coloring book, which I haven't done in forever. So my job for the day, which I found to be fun, but probably isn't going to be that fun to watch, was that I needed to seal all of these packages with this little machine.
It worked.
Good.
Yeah?
Is it good?
That's awesome. Good. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll get them now.
I actually found it to be a really fun and relaxing job to do, because you can just kind of get into this flowing process and it makes it really enjoyable. And so I had, I think, like 4 or 5 big totes that I had to go through. So my hosts' names were Ikani and Kern, and Kern wasn't really there that often because he was working on another project at a different property they have. So I spent the majority of the time with Ikani or doing things on my own. But what me and Ikani decided to do this afternoon was go to this little field area near their house and do kind of a photo shoot slash video shoot. So we brought Kaya and a few outfit changes and went out into this field.
And I can even see that. Dark. You know, as a contrast to the outfit because it's colorful.
Yeah.
But we can keep going. I'll let you be in charge of the directing.
Oh, I don't know. You choose. Kaya! She's making her way around.
You see her?
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely right there. Mm-hmm. The one back there too.
Okay. Okay, you can go. Then I spent a little bit of time kind of editing a little bit of an introduction type video for their business. For dinner we made a soup, and I pretty much just cut up the squash in the most time-consuming way I possibly could. And then I also cut up some potatoes as well. We also decided to put some rainbow chard in there, so I went out to the garden and found the plant, picked a few leaves. It was really fun to be able to eat food where it's like the majority of it is grown right there at their property. It was also really cool because they were both amazing chefs, and so every single meal was just out of this world. That night I just worked on the video for quite a while, and then once it got late, I went back to the van and got ready for bed. See, that was a little look into one of the days at the farm. Like I said, that was probably the most boring day to show, but you know, I also wanted to experience it myself and not really have to worry about having a camera all the time and making sure I'm filming everything I'm doing. If you're not familiar with work exchange, how it works in pretty much most situations, and how it worked for me was that people basically give you accommodation, a place to stay or park your van in my case, and give you food in exchange for working for them for a few hours a day. And so that's what I did. I would have loved to have stayed longer, but they actually had plans for the first few days that I was there. There was this other girl woofing as well, but she had been there for a couple of weeks before that and was leaving. I think she left about 4 days after I got there. I just want to talk about her for a second because I get a lot of comments on my van vlogs and whatever of people saying like, wow, you're so brave, or like it's so crazy to see like a young girl like you doing this. And honestly, I don't really consider myself brave. I never felt like I needed bravery to do van life. It was never something that I was like, oh, this is gonna be so hard, but you can do it, Anna. But let me tell you, okay, this girl, her name is Julia. She's from Germany. She's 17, and she came over here. She flew over, I think, to like Maine, and she did some work exchange there. And I don't remember all of her story. I might mess up some of it. I believe the people that hosted her in Maine gave her a bike, and she biked down the East Coast. I don't remember how far, but like maybe to one of the Carolinas or something. And then she's done like hitchhiking. She's gotten Greyhound buses places. When she left the farm that I was at, they had given her a bike to borrow, and she biked from there to San Francisco, then down to LA, and then she was gonna take some sort of train, Amtrak type thing, back to Sacramento for her flight back. She was also tent camping at this farm, and she had been to like Yosemite tent camping out in the middle of nowhere for days on end by herself. So if you think I'm brave for doing van life, heck no. This girl is like next level. I'm not kidding. It's crazy. It was so fun to meet her and hear her experiences and kind of like see the similarities between the two of us. And then Akani as well has done traveling, and she shared a lot about her experiences and gave me a lot of advice and like ideas of things to do with my life. And I realized so many different things, just random things throughout my experience here, a lot just through my own experiences doing certain things, and then also through Akani and Curran and Julia and their stories. But one thing I really came out of it with was that doing some sort of work exchange, whether it's for a short period of time, whether it's hopping from farm to farm, whatever it is, living with other people, with random strangers basically, you know, understanding what their daily lives are like and kind of having to flow with them and make meals with them and do work with them, for me, I felt like is so much more interesting and growth supporting. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I feel like you can get so much more from that than you can from living in a van. And that doesn't mean that there is not so much to be learned from living in a van. There totally is. But for people who maybe can't really afford to just like buy a van and spend money on a conversion or whatever, first of all, work exchange is way less expensive than doing van life. Second of all, it takes you out of your kind of closed-mindedness. It's hard to understand all these different walks of life when you've only ever experienced your own. Like for me, for example, I've lived in the same house my entire life in the same city, and I've kind of just done the same stuff all the time. I haven't really had that many different experiences that have given me different outlooks on life. And doing the work exchange for me was a chance to get to meet and talk with people who have such drastically different lives and experiences from me. Another thing that I think would be really cool is if you did some sort of work exchange in a foreign country, especially if it's not like, oh, you know, you're going to Canada. If you went to like China, or if you went to Costa Rica and you did work exchange, and you get to really immerse yourself in their culture and understand about all their different traditions and the food and the way of living. I think that is like just such an amazing way to really gain a better understanding for other people and other lifestyles. And especially if you're someone like me who's out of high school and has no clue what the heck they want to do with their lives, it really gets you out of your bubble. Because if you're just in this bubble and you're expecting to try to find out what you want to do, it's really unlikely that it's going to happen. I mean, it definitely can. But when you go out and you hear other people's stories and get their advice and whatever, that's when you can finally start to gain a little bit of clarity. Maybe. I'm not saying it would happen for everybody, but I feel like I really gained a lot of clarity on my life through this experience. I was actually planning on doing more work exchange after this farm near Fresno, and I was going to be helping this guy build some sort of small, simple cabin type thing because I had sent him an email on the woofing website, and he watched my van build video and was like, hey, I think you could help me with this, but unfortunately he had health problems come up, so I wasn't able to do that. But that's okay, because I'm still really grateful for the experience I had at the farm that I did go to. And so yeah, I would honestly recommend people look into this. There's multiple different websites you can use. Woofing.com, they have ones for different countries, so like Woof USA, Woof Central America, all those different things. I know helpx.com or something, Workaway, there's tons of other ones, and some of them like woofing is just kind of for farming, but there's other ones that have to do with maybe helping at animal sanctuaries. Some of them might be helping at schools, obviously not in the US, but like in other countries. There's so many different things that you can do, and so I highly recommend, if you're interested in maybe traveling or just kind of getting out of your comfort zone, or you have no clue what you want to do, to maybe kind of just browse through these websites. So yeah, I had a really great time. I would have loved to have been able to learn about agriculture or whatever, but I also had so much fun doing stuff with the herbs. Like what you saw in those bags that I sealed, a lot of them were tea mixes, and so I worked with things like spearmint and yerba santa and mullein and mugwort and a few others maybe. I did a lot of de-stemming of mugwort, and that's basically you just like take, it's like the stem with the leaves on it, and you just kind of go like that and the leaves fall off. You only use the leaves in the teas. And I did garbling of them, which is blending them all up so they're a lot smaller and finer. And then I mixed some of them together for the tea blends where there's multiple different herbs in them. I put some labels on packages and on bottles, and I weighed out some of the tea mixes and put them into the bags, seal them like that, and then did the other seal like you saw. And so I got to be a part of a lot of the process of making these teas and oils, and there's so many different things that they make. But it's so interesting to see how much time is put into each of these things. Like a lot of times we buy products from stores and we don't really think about the process in which they're made, because how could we know? So yeah, I really enjoyed being able to see that. And like, here's two of the things that they gave me, two oils that they made, I'm guessing like a while ago, because I never saw these kinds, but this one is a lymphatic massage oil. The ingredients are wild-crafted incense cedar oil and organic ylang-ylang and almond oil. And then this one is St. John's wort oil, which is just obviously St. John's wort oil and sweet almond and vitamin E oil. I'll leave a link in the description to their website, so if you're interested in this kind of stuff or you just want to check it out and see what they make, you can just go there. So there you go. That was one day in my life doing work exchange and some reflections on it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions about work exchange, how it works, or just my experiences with it, let me know. This is the real secret of life. To be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play.